it is. So let us just read it. Oyun,
Ayun,
Ayun,
Rulik,
Rilak,
Rilak,
Ewang,
Ewang,
Ayouch,
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 Hayavarat,
Ayavarat,
Ayavarat,
Learn,
Lan,
Learn,
Nyamananam,
Yamanganam,
Nyamangananam,
Jhabhaya,
Jabhaya,
Jabhai,
Ghadadas,
Gadhadash,
Gadathas,
Jabagadadas,
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 Tha Chatha Chatatam,
Kha fa
Kapha,
cha ta
Ta,
ta
Ta,
tha
Ta,
cha
Ta, Ta,
ta
Chatatam,
Ta,
tav
Kapaya,
kapaya
Kapay,
Kapai,
Sasasar Hal,
sa sha
Sasa,
sar
Sar,
Sasasar,
Hal,
hal
Hal,
Iti Maheswarani Sutrani,
iti
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 mahesrani sutranya
Maheswarani
Maheswarani
Sutrani,
Anadi Sangyarthani.
anadi
Anadi
sangyarthani.
Sangyarthani.
So these are the basic mantras. How many people have uh, learned this? That all the 14 sutras. Does anybody remember all the sutras?
More or less.
More or less. Okay. This is a practice because, as I told you, this is our keyboard. This is our keyboard. Whatever we are, you can just always verify, check whenever we are proceeding, whatever we are doing, all based on this. Because from this we get this code 42 pratyaharas which are used in our sutras, right? But anyway, so whatever has been given, so whatever we did so far based on this, the Shiva Sutras, which form the basis of our pratyaharas. So then we saw the sound system, how it is arranged phonetically, how the sounds are rearranged in the Shiva Sutras according to their phonetic characters, vowels, consonants, ach, hal, the division is made. And within ach, we have rasva, guna, bruddhi, vowels, yang, h. Then when you come to the consonants, 25 sounds have been classified into nasals, nyamananam. Then we have fourth letter, voiced, javagadadas, voiced aspirates, javagadadas, only voiced, without aspiration. Tapa chata tha. The second is the voiceless aspirate, and ka chata tapa are voiceless stops. So this way, phonetically, sounds have been rearranged. I have told you this he has done based on the parameter he has adopted is what we are doing in linguistics is this classification has been made on the basis of phonetic characters. How these characters are obtained? So they have been classified based on their place of articulation and manner of articulation, what is called in prayatna, sthana prayatna, and ucharana prayatna. Place of articulation, sthana prayatna, where it is pronounced and how, the manner in which it is pronounced. So when you say ka means a stop sound. Stop is sparsa in Sanskrit, in grammar. Stop, because two parts are touched. It is called sparsa. That's why in linguistics they call it stop. Okay, and it is a voiceless. Ka is voiceless. Ga is voiced. Accordingly, the sounds have been rearranged. This is one way how this phonetic alphabet is made by Panini to start with the or to formulate the rules, because all the changes in the languages we find, the changes are marked by these changes of sounds. Whenever we see there is a change, the change is marked by the change of a sound, whether it is in the beginning of a word, ado or adi, or in the middle of a word, or at the end of the word. But most of the changes first we notice is when two words join together, what we call the sandhi. The sandhi always takes place between two words. That is the last vowel of the first word, deva, and the first vowel of the second word, Indra. So we get Devendra. The two words become one word. In Sanskrit, we call it sandhi. So sandhi means when two sounds come together. For Panini, it is para sannikarsa sanghita. It is called sanghita. Sanghita means when two things join together. That's why Veda is called Sanghita, because the mantras have been compiled, put together, but into different groups, mandalas. So Sanghita talks about the Sandhi, the combination of sounds within a word or between two words, internal or external. This Sandhi takes place when the combination takes place. But combination between whom? So we have two types of combination. It can be combination between root and suffix, or what we call prakriti and pratyaya, or it can be between two words, two prakritis, like Devendra Deva, Indra Deva. Now, this process is continued all through. The language had changed. When do we notice? When a word form is changed or two words have come together. But in this process, what we noticed is, so that is what the sandhi. So when you come to sandhi, so when you come to internal sandhi, that means when we get between root and suffix, what is the output? The output is a word. What we know generally, word. Word means sabda. So for us, a word is not just a one unit, it is always a unit of two. It is understood with only two meanings. When we say Ramaha, it means Rama as well as he is Karta. The Vibhakti is added. From Vibhakti, we understand some meaning. Ramaha means Ramaha Gacchati. Here Rama means Karta. The word Rama has a different meaning. He is the son of Dasharatha. The meaning of son is the lexical meaning, the meaning that you get in the dictionary. When it is used in a sentence, you use a visarga, which indicates it is a, we call it karta or subject. Now this vibhakti, whose meaning? So that is why every word used in a sentence is marked or used with a vibhakti. Whenever it is used with a vibhakti, so two things join. So prakriti and pratyaya, root and suffix. When they join, they give us a word. So I had told you the word as such is not used in linguistics, because if you take word as a unit of meaning, of a meaning, but our word Ramaha is not a unit of one meaning, it is unit of two meanings. Rama as a person and the Visarga as a karta, the subject. So every word used in a sentence is used with a role. So this role is marked by the vibhakti. So vibhakti means vibhajyanti shabdaha. The sounds are distinguished. The words are distinguished. They have different forms, no? Rama, Ramo, Rama. Why you have this? Because they represent different roles they play. So this is what we have been, I have been telling you that what is happening in the language. Where is the change? How the change takes place within a word or between two words. So that is why before we had given these numbers in the last lectures I had given you. The nouns have, so noun suffixes are 25. Sorry, 21. Just before 21. See the number. See this. So I have shown you all the nouns which are infinite in numbers. They take 21 forms uniformly. That is the assurance given by the grammarian. He is telling that any word used in Sanskrit in any literature or in any subject. So what he gives us the data, the target is the nominal forms. All the nominal forms are used with the 7 vibhaktis, what we call vibhaktis. He has fixed this number. This is a finite set. This is with any noun, any nominal form used in the language. Any text you read, you will find words, nouns with vibhaktis. That is soup. Soup always a set of suffixes of 21 suffixes, which are always used with noun. That is how we know this is noun. In Sanskrit, we don't have a noun. But nouns are known through their ending. We call it, that's why it's called subanta. Look at this. Next, I think we have given the chart also. So what is subanta? 1 minute. So there is tree is there. Subanta. See these inflectional suffixes? Inflectional suffixes. And derivation, I have given a chart. You can check it. So that is there. The suffixes used in the languages. In Australia, you get more than 3,000 suffixes. But all are used in two groups that you will see. That's why inflection, the paradigm we have given, this is for the verb, that is for the noun. Nouns have 21 suffixes and verbs have 180, or we call it 18. But we are giving first 9. If you take this 9, automatically we will get the. Now the question is the number that we have fixed. We have not fixed. It is fixed by Panay. Why? How he fixed? He has fixed this number, or number is already fixed by the people. People have used the language. Any root, there are 2,000 roots. Any root we are using, verbal root. Again, the verbs are also known through their endings. That's why they're tinganta. There is no kriya. We say kriya pada. So for grammarian, it is tinganta. Ting anta. Ting means the ting suffixes. You will see all the words used in Sanskrit, whether it is noun, verb, or adjective, we are going to get. All are known through their marker, vibhakti, or called the endings. It's why we get only sutras, you will get the words subanta, tinganta, krudanta, taditanta, like that. There is no noun verb separately word used. It is used only subanta, tinganta. So it shows the Sanskrit is an inflectional language. Subanta represents all the noun categories, all the nominal forms. That will be. Now, as far as the number is concerned, if anybody has any doubt or any question or any observation, any comment, how you fix a number. The grammar, or a good grammar, or an adequate grammar only can explain the infinite forms with the finite set of rules. Panini has tried to give the finite set, Sup as the nominal endings, Ting as the verbal endings. How far it is justified? How you can know all the forms of nominal forms with the 21 suffixes? If we know these 21 suffixes and their changes, then you cannot find an other form in the whole of Sanskrit literature. If you take these 9 verbal forms, you will never get any verb more than this. So the grammarians, it is a challenge. It is an open challenge that whatever has been said is found to be used. There is no verb which is using with more than these 9 suffixes. And how these 9 suffixes are used again? See this numbering, it is in multiplication. 3 into 3. Why not 1 plus 8? So the changes in the language are always in a multiplication. You will find that. 3 into 3. There we had 7 into 3. It means same form. Undergoes 3 times like that. So that means it is not different from. So that is what the first thing, see the numbers, how it is finite. It tells all the 2000 roots can be learned by if you learn this, understand this. This is one rule he gives you, that is why I think. So now see 3 plus 3 plus 2. Who gives you? Where? So there is a sutra. If you look at this, Tingaha Trini Trini 14101. See just Suttingatang Padam. Yeah, just look at this. How do you know it is thing? So the sutra tells you Tingaha. Thing means of the thing. Thing suffixes. How they are used? Trini Trini means 3 each. 3 into 3. And what are these 3 into 3? These 3 represent Prathama, Madhyama, Uttama. 3 persons, 3 subjects. First person, second person, and third person, what we know, is used here as Prathama, Madhyama, Uttama. All the verbal endings, that is thing, are always used in 3 persons and in 3 numbers. Trini, Trini, 3 numbers. And in 3 persons, Prathama, Madhyama, Uttama. Whole language is fixed in this now. I had told you earlier, no. Linguist, when Chomsky started, he wanted to know how a person claims he knows the language. What do you know when you know a language? How many sentences are there in a language? Nobody can say. But for a grammarian, only 3. How many speakers are there in your language? You say infinite. For a grammarian, it is only 3. Only 3 persons speak. First person, second person, and third person. So we call Prathama, Madhyama, Uttama. So all the sentences begins with only 3 subjects. Prathama, Madhyama, Uttama are first person, second person, third person. Do you have any 4 person in any language? You have to think. Do you get more than 3 sentences? So do we say there are many sentences? Where do they come from? How do you master them? So all the infinite is now coming down to 3 only. All the sentences we use in any language. Only 3 types of subjects. First person, second person, third person. We call it in Sanskrit Prathama, Madhyama, and Uttama. And how they are used? Again, each in 3 numbers. That sutra is also there. Next, just please check 102. Tani, all these 3, what do you get? How these 3 are again used? There are only 3, Prathama, Madhyama, each one is in 3. And how these 3 are again? Ekavachana, Divachana, Bahuvachanani, Ekasaha, 1 by 1. These 2 sutra fixes the structure of the sentence. The rule of the sentence. A sentence is one which has a verb or verbal endings which you can make only in 3 persons and in 3 numbers. That's why 3 into 3, 9. 9 suffixes are basic. 9 suffixes are minimum. Maximum, anything you can go. So whatever you get, so we get 90 forms, no, in one verbal root. How these 90 is coming? Are they 90 or 9? I had asked you in the last class that when we are saying there are 90 forms in one verbal root, what are these 90 forms? Are they independent from each other, or they are a modification of something or changes, vikara? So according to the grammar, these 90 forms are only the changes of these 9 suffixes. So 9 suffixes have undergone change in 10 times each. That's why 9 into 10. Why? Because they have been grouped into 10 groups. What do we call it? Dasalakaras. So question comes. The forms are used. 90 forms are used for each verb. Each verb takes 90 forms uniformly. What is the uniformity? Each one has 90 forms, and these 90s have been used in 10 divisions or 10 groups. Why 10 groups? Why not 5? These are the basic things that when we say observational adequacy, how much you have observed, how to make a rule. We are not talking of Sanskrit, we are talking of methodology, how to describe the language. When there are multiple changes, how you are going to make rule, how many rules you need. Rules given by Panini we should follow. Why we should follow? Whether it is only the rules that is available and that can be, that are applicable today. So data is given to us. Now you think, how can you make a rule? How many rules you can make? So that will come one by one. These 90 forms are given for each root. For each root, 2000 roots. Take 90 forms each, only in active. If you take passive, you get another 90, 180. So 2000 into 180, how many sentences are there? And these are the basic requirement for any sentence. Because think, without think, no sentence. Thing means the verbal ending. So we are talking in terms of endings, verbal endings. That's why it's called Tinganta. And for noun, it is. So what is happening? You get 90 forms from one root. But we are using only 9 suffixes. One root, 9 suffixes. So when you join together, the change takes place. Because any change takes place, it is only when X joins with Y. Only when there are 2 people joined together, you make friendship. The combination comes only when we come closer. In linguistics, they say immediate constituent. What is constituent? What is immediate? A meaningful elements, when come together, you get one, a unified one. If you add 1 plus 1, you get only 1. Prakriti plus Pratyaya, there are 2 more. They are called morphemes because they are all meaningful entity. But we say Prakriti and Pratyaya. Prakriti is a free morpheme according to linguistics. Pratyaya is our bound morpheme according to linguistics. Bound means it cannot occur independently. All the pratyayas are dependent, bound morphemes for us. All the prakritis are independent morpheme because prakritis have their own meaning. So prakritis have their own meaning. Pratyayas have their meaning dependent on prakriti. So when you say Ramaha, Ram cannot be used without pratyaya, that is Vishaka or Prathama Vibhakti. Why? Because only Prathama Vibhakti makes it as a useful element, that is, it becomes a karta. We will see. Whose meaning it is? So question comes. When you say Rama is Karta, is the meaning of Rama? Whose meaning is Karta? Is it the meaning of any word? When you say subject, object, these are whose meanings it is? So these things are to be understood, that what is the meaning of a word and what is the meaning of a sentence. When you call sentence only when you get subject. Subject is not a meaning of a word. It is the meaning of sentence only. What do you mean sentence? Only when there is a subject or a predicate or a verb. So subject, predicate and subject, object, these are the concept different beyond words. They represent a higher unit which gives you the correct meaning. You say it is sentence. So Vakya is above words, Sabdas. So Vakya is at the top always. It is the meaning. So that meaning which we understand always in our mind, we know subject, object. Through that only we are using the words. But these words are used again in two groups, subject, object, or subject, predicate, or noun, verb. The name is given, noun, categorization. A category of words in which we get nouns and verbs are the basic two categories used in sentence. All others are secondary. Adjective, adverbs are secondary. That's why they are called adjective. They add only, qualify. But these are the main constituents of a sentence. That is subject and predicate or noun and verb. These are the basic two categories. That is why the sentence is defined as a noun plus verb. If you see Chomsky's NP, VP, he will say sentence has two constituents. NP, VP, noun phrase, verb phrase, or in short form, you can say noun plus verb. Only two. That makes a sentence according to his rule. In linguistics, he says this. But for Panini, it is only Subanta and Tinganta. I think we have done this chart. Subanta and Tinganta. Any sentence we use, this, look at this. Any sentence we call it pada because they are ended with pratyaya. That's why pratyayantam padam. Pada means which is adding with particularly suptingantam padam. The sutra we had given earlier, 1.4.14, suptingantam padam. 1.4.14. Yes. He gives that whole sentence is formed with the two minimum constituents, subanta and tinganta. These suffixes, which are used to make sentence, are different from the suffixes which are used before them. Look at this. I think that's what we are going to make classification. Morphology, because it is the science of morphemes. How morphemes undergo change. Morpheme means, that's why we are using Sanskrit word as pada, because pada is a unit of two, prakriti and pratyaya. Pratyayantam padam. It is not a word, because word is only in the dictionary. That's why you call it lexicon. When it is used in the sentence, the word takes something, what we call the vibhakti. So it becomes pada. That's why vibhaktyantam padam. Now vibhakti means soup and thing, padam. So we are going to get also vibhaktischa. Both of them are also called vibhakti. Vibhaktischa. Why? Look at this. Why vibhakti cha also? See, because of the order, we are able to get the meaning of the sentence. Vibhaktischa means, so soup and thing, pratyayas, are also known as vibhaktis. But this vibhakti is a technical term, different from suojas. As we know, we will come to prathama vibhakti, ditya vibhakti. So there is a grouping, you can look at this. So these vibhaktis, 1 second, just before, inflectional, just inflectional. Now this always, now in linguistics, now recently, they have developed the idea of inflectional suffixes and derivational suffixes. Why you need inflectional derivation? Whether it is only in English or whether when we say it is a complete grammar. What is inflectional, what is derivational? This division, if you look at this, here for inflectional, I have given what we make pada. This is only soup and tea. These soup and thing are called inflectional, or we can take it as inflectional because inflectional suffixes always come at the end of the word, like Ramaha or Gachati. After ti, you cannot add anything. That's why they are also called word final. In linguistics, they will use words to make you more conversant. What is word final? That there are suffixes which are used at the end of the word, and there are other pratyas before them also there are others. So we get complex morphemes. For example, just we are giving no gachati, patati. So in patati you get pata, ti. So in every verbal form there is a in between. We call it agama. Every dhatu before ti takes an agama. So they get patati. O is added. What is this O? It is also a pratyaya. But it is different from ti. A is used with the dhatu before ti, not after. When do you use a pratyaya? Which pratyaya? Where do you use? So in using pratyaya, there is also an order, krama. The root first takes the suffix, what you call the thing, and after taking thing, you get an agama. There is another pratyaya, we call it agama. Agama is special only to Sanskrit language. Even Indian languages, I will show you in due course. So every word is a complex unit. Every verbal form is made with three. That is, one is the root, another is the ending, that is ti, and in between the ti or the root, we get another suffix, which bridges the gap, and you get the form patati, bhavati, khelati. So there are in each verbal form, you will get two suffixes. One, the root, then one suffix, we call it sapagama, O is added, O is a pratyaya, so ti is also a pratyaya. So when ti is used, this is called word final. That means after ti, you cannot add anything. But after O, bhava or patha, you are adding ti. So here O pratyaya is going with root. Okay? But after the root is formed only, it is directly attached to the root. Then only ti is. So ti, before ti, you can add any suffix, but after ti, we cannot. So after ing, you do not add any suffix. That's why they are called finite suffixes. Finite means after that you cannot add anything. These are called inflectional suffixes which are used at the end of the word, after which you cannot add any suffixes. So that's why there are other suffixes which are not thing. That's why, again, these thing suffixes are always used after dhatu. I think we had given there, just please check it. Soup and thing represent two categories of words. So soup is used always with noun, and thing is used always with verb.
I thought that the vibhakti is used only for nouns. Is it also for
That's why I
verbs
told
also?
you. Yes.
But you said vibhakti cha.
Yes.
So does it apply to both?
No, that is why it is coming. Now I will just tell, because all the sutras are used in different domains, adhikaras. Okay, now in this, what is happening? These vibhaktis represent that soup and thing are called vibhaktis technically because there are some operation. If you remember, I had told you earlier, the halant, the pratyas, the end of the pratyas, which are used in the Ashtadhyayi by Panini, like in sup, in thing, the end of the pratyas are generally deleted. Halantyam Sutra, I have told you, this is the first sutra which tells that all the consonants, final consonants of a pratyaya are deleted. Tasya lopaha. So there is a system, I have told you, the lopa, deletion, then additions and modifications. These are the three types of changes, fixed by the grammarians. That any language you see the changes, it can be a deletion, it can be addition, or it can be modification. Lopa, agama, vikara. Now in this, the Sutra Halantyam tells you that all the consonants, all the final consonants of a pratyaya. So that means all the pratyayas are they are ending with one consonant, definitely. So that all the final consonants of a pratyaya or even sometimes dhatu are deleted. But in sup and thing, when they are added, see Ramaha, the suffix is su, no? If ukara is lopa, sa remains still. Because of sa, you get visarga. But as per the rule, halantyam, it should be deleted. But in some places, it is not deleted. There is an exception. So every rule has an exception. So whatever sounds which pratyayas we are using, the supratyayas are used in general. So Halantyam Sutra is general, that all final should be dropped. But, so there is a sutra next to it. Halantyam is 133. If you just have a chance to look at it, I have given the sutra. Halantyam is 133. The next sutra says, Na vibhakto tu sma. Is also, what he says, No vibhakto. In vibhakti, it is not. That means it is not deleted. Look at this. First sutra he says, Halantyam. Can you just go back or just have show it? Halantyam says all the final consonants of a pratyaya are deleted. That is Halantyam 133. But the next sutra 134 says it is not. No vibhakto. So what does vibhakti means here? It is in a previous lecture. Just you can please write down. Okay. Deepa can write down just so that Halantyam 133. Now vibhakto tu sma. So while talking of this tu is tavarga. Now why this tu sma? Look at this. So first he gives all the pratyayas, the final consonants will be dropped. Halantyam means lopa. Final consonants of a pratyaya is always deleted. But the next sutra immediately restricts that no, not in all cases, but except vibhakto. Vibhakti here used in Saptam vibhakti. Vibhakto means not in vibhakti. Look at this 133 Halantyam. These are the sutras of lopa, it. Which sound is dropped where? Okay, these are the sutras I had told you, but I will again explain. But look at, since we are talking of Halantyam and now vibhakto, the vibhakti word is used here technically. Here technically means it represents only that sup and thing. We got the vibhaktishta word used there because that is used here only to negate the lopa of the final consonants. Halantyam says all final consonants should be deleted. But the next sutra says in vibhakti it is not deleted. What is vibhakti here means? Those sup and thing. That's why they have been put together as a one category. That is vibhaktis. It is technically used because in this sup and vibhakti only the lopa does not take place. That's why you get.
Can I have examples so that we understand?
Yes. Now Ramaha, we are using Visarga. The Visarga is coming by S because Sa is there. Sa is not deleted. Similarly, if you take Ramaha, Visarga, when it is Raman, Halant now is there at the end. Raman, but it is not deleted. Ramat, Panchami, to is not deleted. Like that, if you go to verb also, so we get this bhavami, bhavamah, bhavamaha. Visargas are there. Wherever there is visarga, it represents a sakara. Wherever there is visarga, is coming out of sakara. The sandhi rules we will be talking when we come to Ramaha, or all common rules will be coming. So in vibhaktis, Ramebhyaha, Ramabhyam, is remaining. So in Subanta and Tingata, in nominal forms and the verbal form, these are the ending, inflectional suffixes. This is characteristic of inflection. These suffixes, inflectional suffixes, represent one category because their final endings are not deleted, no lopa. Because these two are only there, not all other pratyayas, that's why they have been clubbed as vibhakti, technically. Like that, you will find in making rules, he has clubbed many things together which behave in the same manner. You will get many technical terms like this, which represent a group of elements or two different groups behave in uniform manner. That's why they have, instead of using separately, we have a dhatu is there, dada, ghoda, bhu sangya is there. Bhu represent da dhatu and dha dhatu because they behave equally. So that all things so vibhakti here is a technical different from the sapta vibhaktis. Okay, so it is used vibhakti because not to allow deletion. And we say tusma when he says this, deletion of what? Not all sounds, but except only ta varga tu. I told you one of these savanasya cha pratyaya, if it ukara the represent ka varga, the series, tu mean ta varga, ta tha da dha na, and sakara and makara. Not all sounds. In halantyam, all sounds are deleted. In vibhaktis, only ta varga, ta tha da dha na, shakara and makara are not deleted. All others are deleted. So this rule gives you that all the verbal endings as well as the nominal endings, these are called the inflectional suffixes, they always represent a different form. That's why they are always at the word final, and within their word final, their consonants are not deleted. And out of this consonant, only ta varga, sakara, makara. A system is built only when you find, that is how to make a rule. To make a rule, we must have a uniform set, uniformity. Unless there is a commonness, unless there is a uniformity, we cannot say X changes to Y. So when you say noun, why you say noun? Because nouns are used in one paradigm. You can say Rama Gachati, you can say Hari Gachati, you can say Rama. So this way is that is called the paradigmatic relations. So in a sentence, when words are used, they are used in particular relations. One is paradigmatic, another is called syntagmatic. Syntagmatic, when we will come to more on syntax, I will explain that. But paradigmatic means, so by putting them in a paradigm, you form one category. Just like we say noun. Why it is a noun? Noun is a class of words which represent or which can be used in a paradigm. You can say Ramaha, you can Harihi, you can Guruha, any word used in this. So all coming under one category called noun. For us, it is Subanta. Any noun used in any language. In English, it is called noun. In Sanskrit, we call it Subanta. And in our Indian languages, we call it Visheshya. Visheshya Pada. Okay, so this is the categorization. Unless we make categories, we cannot make rules. So that is why classification of words and the conditions which are applied cannot be used unless we put them in different categories or domains. So that is why all our forms used in Sanskrit sentences are divided into Sugata and Tingata. This is called the inflectional suffixes. Now why, as I told you, these are all word finals. So what are the other suffixes? So thing suffixes are used after dhatu. So Adhikara Sutras, we have domain heading rules. Pratipadikas. So soup is used after Pratipadika, that is nominal stems, and thing is used after verbal term, verbal roots. Dhatoho, thing. Like that also we have given if you look at this Adhikara Sutras. Pratipadikat, soup. Su just amounts us, no? Dhatoho, thing. So all the suffixes used are broadly categorized based on nominal and verbal forms. So nominal endings are should, verbal endings are thing. But these are called the inflection. Why? Because there is another category of suffixes which are used only to form a stem. Example, we take this, no? Suppose, for example, in Sanskrit, this we have patati, patati, no? Pat is added here to make patha. Then only you can use patati as ucharana. Patsi we cannot say. Patati is used, so a vowel is added in between. So between the root and the inflectional ending, we add something in between. This is why we call it agama. So agamas are called infixes in English or linguistics. Infixes has a different meaning in linguistics, but for us we call it agama because it does not change the meaning. It is only make the form complete. And that also, why you use agama? Because people have used it, but there is also a reason. When we come to the verb, as I told you, you get these 90 forms in 10 groups. Same dhatu, no? Same group. Why you use 10 times? So 10 times means there is a difference. What kind of difference? Our 10 divisions of verbal roots, these 90 forms represent, or you can say, similar with English tense, moods, and aspects. Tense, moods, and aspects are the properties of the verb only, not of the noun. Any verb we know, the verbs are used with person, number, and time, tense. Those who are doing linguistics, they know all the verbs are representing the suffix is PNG. PNG means person, number, gender, plus time is important. There is a verbal kriya. When you know it is a kriya, only when there is an action. And when there is action, when it is involved with the time. Without time, no action. So that action represents time. So that's why tense is the most important feature of verb. How do you know it is a verb? Which is marked with a tense, time. If without tense, no verbal form can be used. This time has been classified. What we say, time, past, present, future, but we have 10 times. 10 times. That means same time has been used in 10 different divisions. That's how Panini has been able to capture. So time is one. So it has been used 10 different ways for 10 different meanings. So time has been divided into past, present, future, 3 tenses. In general, we know in all languages, but in Sanskrit it is 10. And just for information, I will divide these 10 because they represent, we have 3 past, we have 2 futures, 3 to 5, 1 present. So 6. Other 4 are different moods. Aspects and moods are included. They are represented through the verbal forms. We will be doing when we come to, I will explain this 10 also, why it is called Lokara, why they are coming. Now we are going to, just to see this noun formation or the word morphology or the noun morphology. What is noun? A noun is a unit of 2 elements, Prakriti and Pratyaya. And each noun form, which is with Prakriti and Pratyaya, is declined in 7 ways. That's why you get 7 into 3, 21 forms. We'll see today soup. Yeah, soup only. So now in soup, The tenses will come later after we finish this noun morphology. These are all giving difference. Now we look at this, all the nominal forms. So how many nouns we are using? We do not know. But how we are knowing how to make rule then? So to bring them under rule, we have to bring them under one group or a category. So that's why the name is given is Pratipadika. Pratipadika is a technical name given to the nominal stems, what we call the nouns, or call the what we know the subject. The subject is only a grammatical function, but the form is actually a nominal form. What is this nominal form? How many nominal forms we have? So in English, if you look at this, they put this noun phrase into noun or PN is pronoun. Look at this. Noun also, pronoun is also like noun. That's why their category is same. Their function is same, but forms are different. In nominal forms, we get only one category of noun. It can be a ordinary noun or it can be pronoun. So generally we know in tradition it is 7 nouns, not 5 nouns. Names of things, person answers, that the object of things like that, like name of object, name of thing, name of action. We give so many nouns. We say 5 types of nouns. But for grammarian, it is not 5 for us. It is only one. One noun is one category, and which is substituted by pronouns. So that's why they represent one category. All sentences, we have 2 constituents, noun and verb. Noun means nouns or pronouns, nothing else. Verb means only verb. And each one is added with suffix. Noun with the soup and verb with the thing. That's all. The whole structure of the sentence. If you look at this, just giving the noun, technically we are using karta and kriya, again grammatically. But is karta always represented by an or pronoun, noun or pn? And kriya is always verb. Any sentence we use, the basic structure, the rule is they must have 2 constituents. So in Panini's term, it is Subanta and Tinganta. What Subanta represents? The kartas, all the Prativadikas. This is actually the kriya, what is given here little, that is a mistake actually. It goes above little, okay? Pratipadika and dhatu, then under dhatu, kriya should come. So we have one more label here. Deepa, please note it. The Pratipadika and dhatu.
I'll correct it, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
We look at this. So Pratipadika comes the left category, dhatu comes the second category. Dhatu means represent kriya. So in kriya you have verb plus thing, and here you have noun, pn plus soup. And this soup represents 3, that is I told you. So that is ekavachana, dvivachana, bahuvachana. All the nouns are used in 3 numbers so that they go together with the verbal forms ekavachana, dvivachana, bahuvachana. So 3 are 3. So there is a correspondence. This is called the samanadhikarana. Panini used the word samanadhikarana. Samanadhikarana means if the noun and verb are in the same person and same number, PNG is same. So Rama is singular, Gachati, Ti is singular. That's why it is a sentence. We cannot change it. It is fixed. Then only we can say, so thing means Kriyapada, soup is the nominal forms. So, but all are used in 3. So like thing, soup is, that's why you got the sutra, supaha. So Trini, Prathama Madhyamottama. So here you get this Prathama, Su Aujas. But it is used with any, whether it is noun or pronoun, they take Su Aujas in Prathama, we call it Prathama Vibhakti, we will come later. Subjects, generally we say agent, or we call it Karta. Karta is agent. So we don't have the notion of subject in Sanskrit. So there is a lot of this. I'll tell you how linguist was the theory was developed, case grammar, but how Panini has set right agent. All the agents are called who can begin with subject of the sentence, and they are always marked with the 3 forms in singular, dual, and plural. because subjects or the agents are used in three numbers. It can be dual, it can be plural. So dual is only a special feature of Sanskrit. Why? So many people ask why you need dual, because modern language do not have dual. Because as I told you, grammar Sanskrit is a inflection language and it is a structured language. Structured in the sense each meaning is distinct. So when you have Divachana, generally in our languages, plural means more than one. Book, books. Even you have two books, you will say books. Same also in our Indian languages. Ekavachana, Bahuvachana. We do not have Divachana. Because we do not specify the meaning very distinctively. In Sanskrit, this is not possible. If there are two, suppose you are walking with 2 feet, no? With your feet you are walking, no? How do you walk? With 1 feet, 1 foot or 2 feet? So here we specifically mention in Sanskrit, you do not get Bahuvachana, always Padvyam, Divachana. You are seeing in 2 eyes, not in 3 eyes. Though you say eyes, for us it is Akhi Bhyam. Bhyam is Divachana. So Divachana is important for giving distinctive meaning. The form is given to make a difference between singular and plural. So in Sanskrit, this is the speciality that we should know Divachana correctly so that all the verbal forms used in 3 forms, with 3, Gachati, Gachataha, Gachanti. So the form will be Suvaujas, Ramaha, Ramau, Ramaha, Balakaha, Gachati, Balakau, Gachataha, Balakaha, Gachanti. So there is a correspondence. This is called Samanadhikarana. This is called agreement in linguistics. Agreement means noun and verb should be agree in their person and number. So 3 persons should agree with verb in 3 numbers. So that's why different markers, different vibhaktis are used to indicate that there is a correct. This is called grammatical. That's why sometimes we will say, no, I think those who have law, little linguistics, who have the greenless ideas, sleep furiously. Ideas sleep. Is it a sentence or not? Ideas sleep. Is it a sentence or not? So question is asked. How do you describe this? Chomsky uses this word. Colorful green ideas, sleep furiously. Is it a sentence or not? So sentences are also analyzed based on semantics. So there was a problem when you use this sentence, colorful ideas, sleep furiously. It is grammatically correct. Idea sleep is grammatically correct, but semantically not correct. So semantics play an important role in distinguishing between animate, inanimate. All the division that is made, used in the language, have been based on this meaning. But here, if you look at this between noun and verb, I'm talking of this agreement now, the agreement, how it takes place. So if noun is used in singular, dual, plural, verb, all the verbs in all the 10 lakaras, in the 10 groups are used always in 3 numbers, singular, plural, and dual. So that is why the correspondence made that you cannot make a mistake because numbers are fixed. Then only we can make a rule. That's why it says sup. Why is given 3, why it is divided to 3. Why thing also like that? Because they represent the agreement factor, the coordination, the correspondence between noun and verb is in person and number. If first person, the verb ending should be first person. If it is second person noun, it should be second person verbal ending. If it is third person noun, it should be also third person ending. So endings are 3. Divided into 3, you get 9. Otherwise, basically, they are 3. Because the speakers are only 3 for the grammarian. Any language we speak, there are all we speak. But how many sentences? Basically, if you look at, we use only 3 basic sentences. That is first person, because 3 persons only, I, you, and the rest. One who speak, The speaker, the hearer, and the rest, those who listen to it. Three categories of speakers. That's why grammar is restricted or grammar is functional only when there is a restriction, there is a niyama. This is a niyama. Niyama is made not by grammarian. Grammarian only showing that the language is used with certain rules. Because we know, everybody knows the rules, but he do not know what these rules are. We know the language, but we do not know about the language. Whether it is grammar or linguistics, it is only talking about the language. How many speakers? How you can make a rule? So grammar only tells the minimum or the basic features of the language, the basic structure of the language, the basic rules of the language, which we call niyama. Rule is not made by the grammar. Rule is only shown, these are the possible rules. Pani did not say these are only final. We say complete Krishnam Vyakarana, we are only telling. But when we compare with the linguistic theories, the adequacies, that's why we are trying to put within the frame of three adequacies, observational adequacies, how much observation one should make. To come to this, supting atang padam, to make a rule, how much one must have studied or how much one need to observe. Yes, Venkat, you are raising your hand. Any doubt? Venkat?
No, sir. Class is very nice. We are enjoying a lot since first day onwards.
I'm trying to just to show that the system, how a system is built, how language is a system, you can see through Panini's structure. Panini has given the rules. On what basis? Just because he has said the rule we should follow? Not necessarily. Now the data is given, target language, 90 forms are given for a verb. How to make a rule? And it is not with one verb, within 2000 rules. How can you say there is a rule? Where is the rule? How many rules are there? So he has given still 4,000 rules. Imagine. Why 4,000? The question remains, when a system is built, how a system is built, unless we observe the functions, unless we go by the functions, that is we call prakriya, process. So everything you look at, there is a process. Everything is going through a process. There is a fixed numbers. There is a correspondence between two groups of forms. Whether soup and thing, the correspondence is same. They are all in three. If one will be two, then there will be no communication. So to make a communication effective, there must be a proper rules. Without proper rules, we cannot speak anything. That is what we do. Where the rules are, we say everybody has the rule. Everybody has inherited the rules, but we do not understand it. But when you simply say, I know everything, but a grammarian tells, what do you know? A linguist will say, what do you know? Now read this first. Look at this. How it has come, when it has come, and how to understand that. Then only we will know, yes, I know it. You can correct yours. It is not just learning something new. It is only what it is always within you. You know the language, you know your mother tongue, any language you know. Look at, verify whether there is anything beyond these rules. Do you have other than three persons? So English is changing like you are using auxiliaries, no? I am, you are, he is. That's all. But ours always the endings. We are not using auxiliary. Ours is always inflectional because we are more using the subanta and tinganta, the endings, final pratyaya. The pratyayas are important for us because pratyaya, that's why it is called pratyaya, because pratyate anena, with which you get the meaning distinguished or it is reflected, it is indicated. Once you use Ramaha, you know this is Prathama Vibhakti. If you say Ramena, you say it is Tritiya with Rama. The meaning, how do you get? If you know these Vibhakti rules, we can get the meaning of the sentences. So look at, so this is what the diagram which shows you that this Pratipadika and Dhatu, which represent the two aspects of the sentence. So sentence is nothing but the two. In two, always in two, not one. Semantically, it is one. That is why we say S. S is at the put at the top. No, we call syntax, but syntax is nothing but the meaning only for us. So that also will show you. What this represent is your tree structure as Chomsky is giving. You can also join both at the top. Then you can say sentence has noun and verb, NP, VP. All those who know linguistics can see the structure are very much clear as it is done in the linguistic theory. So Panini has not drawn the tree, but he has used the form, classified them, analyzed them, and made rules to show that language is nothing but a set of rules. Every speaker knows the rules, but the rules are not known to them. We only, and when we analyze only, we study only, yes, yes, yes. Kuncha, S. If you put together two, you take one tree, we'll get this S. Now, in the place of Pratipada, you can, yes, sentence. Fine. Sentence always represents two parts, two constituents. You call it immediate constituents. We do not put actually the cross or the link because in Sanskrit, you can, in Sanskrit, this is what is happening, that these linkings are not actually, though immediate, they put these lines directly, but we can change the order because of inflection. We can use, say, Gachati Ramaha, Pathati Ramaha, but these are not normal. These are possible only in poetry, but the normal order is this. In every language, the Subanta or the noun and verb is the normal order. But when they are used in the language, they take particular forms. Okay, now, so this is when we will come to verbal morphology. I will explain more, but I would like to now go back, Kuncha, Deepa, what I sent you yesterday. Now, yeah, exactly. Now, what is happening here? Look at this. How many nouns we get? So, noun, we get S1, one suffix. This is noun su. So, when you take a noun structure, okay, how many nouns? As I told you, and in made two divisions only. One is the proper nouns. What do you call the proper noun? Means nouns representing names of person, things, etc., etc. But apart from that, the nouns are substituted by, so nouns are called namaha. Look at this. The word nama is used by actually first, the category of words is made first by Yaska in his Nirukta. He divided words into four categories. Nama means Nama, Akhyata, Upasarga, Nipata. First division in 6th century, 7th century BC. The first division of words was classified by Yaska in his sutra. Nama, Akhyata, Upasarga, Nipata. So he shows that all the words are classified into Nama. Nama means noun, Akhyata means verb, Upasarga means prefixes, and Nipata means the particles. But Panini does not say, because he's writing rules. The Nama is, I have taken here because Nama, Panini doesn't use, but he used the word Sarvanama. Sarvanama means the name of everything, no? That means Nama means a proper noun, Sarvanam means a pronoun, and Sarvanam we call it is because it is used in the place of noun. It is a substitute of Nama. That's why Sarvanama. Just like you say God, no, everybody is God. Everybody's name is God's name, no. Sarvanama. So Sarvanama represents the pronouns. So automatically represent nouns. So represent noun means, so that's why Namaha means nouns and Sarvanama is pronouns. Panini has used the word Sarvanamaha. So there is one sutra, Sarvadini Sarvanamani. Which are Sarvanamas? Which are the prefix? Sorry, what you call the pronouns? So he gives Sarva, Para. There, because why I put separate category? Because pronouns take a different form. The same suffix we find here, no? So when it comes with pronoun, I will show you also. For next table will come. But here you look there in every noun. 1 minute. In every noun, you have three forms. So first suffix is singular, ekavachana, nama. So nama plus su, you get nama is Rama, name of a person, plus su, you get Ramas. The sa become Visarga. Here sa is not lopa. by halantam because na vibhakto tusma, because it is used as a vibhakti in the word final. That's why it is not deleted. We get ramaha visarga. Then second suffix o, nama plus o is rama plus su. Sorry, it should be o. Second one, rama plus o, it becomes ramo parla. Please check. Rama plus o, you get ramo. Ripa kuncha correction parno. Rama plus o, it becomes ramo. No saw there. No visarga. Only ramo.
Just changing, sir. Just
Yeah,
changing.
change. Similarly, if you take Rama plus Jas, Rama plus Us, Ramas, then you get Ramaha. Okay, so Ramo, Ramo, Ramaha. These are the three forms used like that. What does it indicate? So here we are showing Rama Sabda used in three forms in Prathama Vibhakti, which indicates that it is not only for Rama, all the nouns. I think Kuncha place mele, just go see that nominal forms I had given you. All the nouns in Sanskrit are classified based on their ending in vowels or consonants. Just see that yesterday I was, no, the last class I had shown you. Okay, now let us see. So what I was going to see, no, nominal morphology. I will give one example how vibhakti's rules are to be met. No, just yesterday I gave you, no? Yeah, if you take these vibhaktis, now let us say the first set, Ramaha, Ramo, Rama. Okay, if you take one first, Ramaha, Ramo, Ramaha, Ramam, Ramu, Raman, Rameno, Ramabhyam, Ramehi. So here we are talking 21 suffixes. But other day, Satpal sir was telling, why not 63? Say, for example, you can multiply into 3. Whether it is 63 or 60, how do we know? So 21 is called basic because all other changes that take place on this 21 are not different. They do not change the meanings. Basic means they change the difference in meaning. So you see Ramaha singular ekavachana, Ramo divachana, Ramaha bahuvachana, Ramam again ditya ekavachana. So these suffixes are distinct in their numbers. First thing, vachana. So the vibhaktis which are used here, they are fixed. That is called the 21 suffixes because they are distinct from each other. But these 21 suffixes, when used with other nouns, so question is why Sanskrit is so vast and still structured? Now all the nouns in Sanskrit are used either with vowel or consonant. Again, vowels, you have hraswa and dirgha. The same suffix can be used with all of them, no? Because this is a nominal suffix, it is at soup. It is noun plus su, no? Noun can be hraswa, it can be dirgha. Can you please check it? Deepa, show the next one. That noun with hraswa, you get one form Ramaha. If it is feminine, just next please. See, suppose it is pati. Patihi, pati, patayaha. There it was Ramaha, here it is patayaha. Patya, patibhyam, patibhi. Here, there you had Ramena, Ramabhyam, Ramabhi. What is happening? Same suffix. But when it is used with a particular noun, ending with a short vowel or long vowel, or O or E, we get the change. The same 21 suffix undergo change according to the ending of the noun. That's why all the words used in the grammar is called, or say this commentary, they will say akaranto, akaranto, ikaranto, ikaranto, or halant. So the nouns are classified according to their endings, with vowel endings or consonant endings. And since vowels and consonants are the main use or the main conditions, also at the end of a word, when a suffix is added, so suffix is one. If it is prathama ekavachana, all the nouns are used in prathama sapa ekavachana, the same suffix is one. But you have base, different bases. Akaranto, akaranto, hraswa, dirgha, you have consonant ending, we have rukaranta, pitru. If it is different types of nouns, but same suffix is added, it is bound to happen change. So that's why the same su undergo change. So that is why we say, what we call the morpheme in linguistics. So the change are two types. Change means if it changes the meaning, then it is a different one. Suppose su and o. Why two? Because su and o represent two different meanings. Su is singular, o is plural. But if su, suppose if you say Ramaha in their place, suppose say Patihi, they represent same. But if you are taking phalam, phalam patati. Phalam is singular, it is neuter. In neuter, it is am. The question is whether am is same as su or not. The am is same or different. It is also prathama, it is used, phalam. All the neuter we are using with am, phalam, banam. So when neuter is there, so what is happening? No, suffix is one, it is used with singular. I think the next, please just check it, the rule. So if it is singular, masculine, the su is become visarga. Next, please. I think the changes that we had seen, you look at, wait. So I am showing, see, how types of noun. We have Tasva, vowels, that is short vowels, na, ni, u, nru. Okay, akaranta, ikaranta, ukaranta, and rikaranta. But all take 21. That means same suffix undergo change. Similarly, if you take dirgha also, na, this colon is given always for dirgha, dirghai, dirghau, dirgharu. Again, also 21 forms. If it is neuter, again, we have phalam, we have bari, so we have akaranta, ikaranta, ukaranta, again 21. Now what is happening? All these forms used in language, they represent only one meaning, that is su. For example, prathama ekavachana, nouns are of these types, but if we say Ramaha patati, Rama patati, and phalam patati. So masculine, feminine, neuter, gender is marked in the nouns based on their, so that is why vibhaktis. So Ramaha, here su has become visarga, and Rama, here it is a, there is no visarga, so sakara is lopa, and if it is phalam, you get am. So what has happened? They represent one category of meaning, that is they are subjects or agent. The agent is represented by prathama vibhakti, and the prathama vibhakti is su is taken by Panini to indicate that all other things are only changed. So in morphological category, morpheme being even a morpheme is always an abstract meaning. It represents an abstract meaning. It is only represented by different forms. For example, for us, suppose here Ramaha, Rama, and all are represented in Prathama Vibhakti. So Prathama, what is the common form? So meaning is one, Prathama. But how that meaning is realized? Now we see them in these forms. So then which is original? Whether they are three or one, one is represented in three ways. In one place, it has changed to visarga. Another place, it has been deleted. And deleted doesn't mean it's not there. It is, I had told you, other sanam lopa will explain you. And phalam. Phalam is neuter. So what has happened? So when we describe the forms of a language, when you want to describe the form of nouns, how to describe, how to make a rule. If you take only one suffix, that is prathama, ekavachana, that is the soup. Soup, in the soup, su is the first one. So su is prathama with ekavachana. Now the su has given the three forms. The question is, which one is right? How do we know this? If we know these three only, we will be able to explain the suffix, which is the original suffix. So which is the original morpheme. Morpheme is a meaningful unit, what they say. And when this morpheme is used in different places, so it changes in different conditions. So language changes because of the different condition. What is that? If you have one entity, if it comes to the different context, different circumstances, different environment, it undergo change. So I had given you example in English, you have books in the plural form, books. But if you dog, you say dogs. So becomes pronounced. Whether so, jo are same or different, one sound or two sounds. So both are taken as one morpheme or a plural morpheme, one. But S is changed to Z, not Z changes to S. How do you know? What is the proof? So when you make a rule also, you have to establish which one is original, which is the change. Then only your rule will be explained properly, adequately. So whenever we are taking the forms also, we have to find out which changes to what. When you change X changes to Y not Y changes to X? Question may come, or always comes. So to be logical side, if you want to give proper evidences, the structural form which we are getting, they are very much logically formed, changed. The logic we have to find out. The grammarians only by observation, grammarian tries to create a language to explain that this is what. So that is why the su pratyaya what he has given is the basic morpheme for us, like S in English, plural. Plural S is original form. Why? Now suppose if you see this, so books, sa is there. If it dogs, you get za, and if it is child, you get e and children. So what is happening? The change because of the environment. Sa becomes a sa is sa because it is voiceless, because it is preceding ka, book. But when we make a dogs, they become ja because of the ga. Ga, ka has become ga. Dag, ga is voiced. So sa become voiced, it becomes ja. So that's why the sa and ja are considered to be the allomorphs. Allo means friendly. Only conditionally they undergo change, not different in meaning. Meaning remains same, but the form differs according to the condition, circumstance, environment. So this position is called also positional change. In a particular position, it will undergo change. So these positional changes are called, with case of sound, it is called allophones. In case of morphemes, they are called allomorphs. So allomorphs means the morpheme which has variant in a particular condition. So for the subject, what we have su, ramaha, rama, and phalam, we have three realization, three forms are available. In one place, Visarga is there, means which represents sakara, that is su, and in dirgha it is not there, and in phal you get So su undergoes, so it has three representations. Now out of the three, which is original? When you make a rule, you have to say x changes to y, no? Out of the three, what is available in the language, what is used in the nominal forms, we get only three. One is Visarga, another is zero, another is So that means among the three, if we say the change has taken place, what has changed to what? So we have to find out the basic morpheme. So Panini has taken su means su must be basic morpheme. How do you explain? As we see it in English also, when you get en, only certain, so the changes take place in two ways. Remember, it is also in Sanskrit or in Panini has followed that, and linguistics also following that. What is that? So rules which are general. So there are changes which are general are there. There are also exceptional changes. Exceptional means, so there is no change without exception. So rules are made for the general, then exceptions are given with a niyama, what we call the nishedha. Same way, that's why you get books, etc. So is plural is taken in English. Why? But we have child, we get children, and we have chicken. So why not en is first? Now if you look at this, the changes between so and ja is common and general in a particular context, in a particular environment. But the change of en, it is not the environment. It is only with a group of words like child, chick, very words which can be listed. So major changes we call in linguistics also, they call it is rule governed. The major changes are rule governed. So there is a rule. Sa becomes za before voice. It is a rule. But sa, plural sa becomes en. It is not, it is only a niyam that only with few. It is called least governed. Least means a class, a very few words which can be listed. They don't need any rule. They don't need any grammar. But grammar only points out. Generally sa becomes za. In voiced if there is a voiced consonant before that. But getting en or zero, when you get sheep, double EP, you get zero, there is no marker. That is also there. But these are only listed. This is called the least governed. So all the rules used in any language, the changes are described either as a rule governed or least governed. But when you come to Panini also, how he has made this, his method, look at the same way. He has taken S is the basic or the soup is the basic, and then he says soup undergo change. The su becomes zero. The su becomes Whether it is rule governed? No. So su is common, occurs in all the dhatus generally. But in specific cases only, now if you look at this Rama Dirgha, in Dirgha there is no sukha, it is lopa. That means if a noun ends with a long vowel, the vibhakti is dropped. Suk vibhakti is dropped, is not there. It is adarsanam, it is called lopa. And if it becomes only with the neuter nouns. Nouns which are neuter, they take So it is all the nouns used in Sanskrit, used in Prathama Vibhakti will have only 3 forms. If there is a Visarga, it must be Raswa. If it is Dirgha, that should be deletion. You cannot say Ramaha, Rama Gacchati. And if it is a neuter, how do you know? Is added. So, and zero are the 2 variants of the pratyaya su, because su comes in general. Lopa is restricted to only dirgha. Is restricted to only neuter nouns. So that means all other places su. So what is general? What is used in major cases? So majority is given always preference. That suffix, that sound which comes in majority of the places is the prathama, is the basic morpheme. Because it is basic, because it is pradhana, it is prathama. If it is changes only in restricted places, so the restricted places are called the variants or allomorphs. So for us, su is the basic morpheme, and this zero as well these are the allomorphs in linguistic terms. So like this, if each pratyaya is explained, then we don't need to worry what text you are reading in Sanskrit. In what subject you are reading in Sanskrit, you will have no problem. Only 21 suffix, if we understand their morphemes and their allomorphs, their conditional variations. So we do not need to ask anybody, and nobody can also dictate whether it is right or wrong. So you are the best person to judge if you know the rule. That's why rules only gives you enough confidence or assures you that what you know is correct. But we must understand what is correct. The next, I think yesterday Deepa just showed this. I will just show it. How a rule is made also. I will show you one example now. Next, please. Yesterday. We have taken only 2 pratyayas. I am going to see how a rule is made. Deepa, can you just? No, yesterday I gave. Yesterday. Only 2 rules. Yesterday. Tritiya vibhakti ekavachana, bahuvachana, and Ditya vibhakti ekavachana. No, yesterday I gave you. Yesterday. This is morphology. Now you can see now. Yes, 1. This is second singular. The pratyaya is Look at this. Only 1 ditya, 1 ekavachana. You take any noun, you use only But how it is possible? Look at the forms. In Ramam, Rama is akaranta, is added. Latam, Lata is, Lata please make dirgha. Lata plus also Latam. Okay. Lata, A plus A also becomes A. Harim, Hari plus also become Harim. Nadi plus become Nadim. Sadhu plus become Sadhu. So what is happening here? All the rules we have seen. The Savarna Dirgha. Now Rama plus it should be Ramam, no? But it has remained as Ramam. Similar, Lata plus A plus O, we can have A, that is there. But Hari plus it should have been Haryam. Ekojanaji Sutra is applicable. Because he is followed by O, that should be Ya. But it has not changed. Similarly, Nadi plus A also, there is no Janadesha. In U also, there is no. So what has happened here? 1 suffix, whether suffix is or Ma. In Latam, Lata is the form, and Ma is added, it should become Latam. But we are showing is the pratyaya. On what basis? Even in Sadhu also, it should be Sadhum, only Ma, but instead of that, he is giving So uniformly, the vibhakti is marked as Even the nouns are different endings, we get Now how it is possible? How to justify? How it is logical? So we have seen Haswa, Dirgha, so Dirgha, Desha, Sabana Dirgha, Jana Desha, Guna, Bruddhi, etc. So here then none of that rule is applying. Then how you take, so look at this sutra. There is a sutra, it's called Purva Adesha. We have Purva and Para. Okay, so Purva, the Ami Purva means if Am Pratyaya follows, it joins with the noun as it is. No Sandhi text. This is called Purva Sandhi. Purva Sandhi means the form joined at the Purva form as it is. So Lata remains Lata. Only it is merged. It is called merging. So in Sandhi, we have seen the changes through substitution. Like E becomes Ya. We have seen Sabarna Dirgha. Both are joined together, you get Dirgha. A plus A becomes A. But in some places, see, look at when the words are forming, the word formation, the noun morphology, what do we find? A rule called Purva Adesha. Purva Adesha means whatever the Purva for Lata is there, Nadi, Dirgha is there, Om is simply, O is more. This is called Purva Adesha. Similarly, we have Para Adesha or Para. So there is a Purva Para also merging between the Prakriti and Pratyas, which are, so this is called Ami Purvaha. So that's why only one suffix, there is no substitute, there is no elamam. Am, Ditya Vibhakti, Ekavachana is the only one morpheme, single morpheme, no elamam, no variants. So that's why we cannot change 21 into 22. Number cannot be changed. The next one, you see, third singular, how to make a rule. The rule I had sent to you, please. So, correct, very good. So, this is, look at this. No, don't show the rule now. Now, look at this. These are the forms. Any noun used in Sanskrit. As I told you, there should be either vowel ending or a consonant ending. Right? But the suffix is one. So, he has taken bis and ois. There are only two forms, bis and ois. Two ways are seen. If you take Akaranta, Ramehi, it is Hari, Haribhi. If it is Sadhu, Sadhuvi, Lata, Nadi, Nadivi, Pitru, Pitruvi, Raja. In all other places, so you get bis. So there are two substitutes. There are two pratyas, two markers, use two morphemes, bis and ois. But all are used in third singular. Since the meaning is one, the suffix should be one. Both are only two representation of the same thing, same morpheme. They are third singular, third plural. Sorry, third singular. Sorry, this should be third plural. I'm sorry. Third plural, please. This is bis is third. Ta, bhyam, bis. Bis is the third plural. Please make third plural. So, bis, ois, suppose has. Now, how to make a rule? In third, all the forms used in Sanskrit, all the nouns used in Sanskrit, Tritiya Vibhakti Ekavachana, sorry, Tritiya Vibhakti Bahuvachana, you have only form is either oi or bis. But if you look at these forms, you get oi in one place and bis in the rest of the places. The V form is used in majority places, oi is only in one place. So what we will say? Any noun used in Tritiya Vibhakti in Sanskrit whole literature. So Tritiya Vibhakti form either be bis or ois. Because ois is only found only in one place. In all other places, bis. So what is that place? If we fix the place, we can make a rule. The rule can be made only when we find that condition is fixed. So we get V is commonly in general, but O is only in one place. What is the place? Can anybody tell? What is the difference between all the words?
Rame.
Yes?
Rame is, sorry.
Akaranta.
Akaranta.
Just see.
Rame.
This is the rule. That's what. What we can say is that only in Akaranta you get this. Tritiya Bahuvachana of Akaranta only ois. Otherwise, this is everywhere. We don't need to learn it. We need not need to master it. It is only mastering the rule. Oh, this is the condition. So one condition, once we fixed it, then rule is made automatically. It is the bis that changes to ois in the Akaranta. So that rule he has shown you. That's so this ato bis ais. This was see there. Now look at how the rule is made. Ato bis ais. See the order. Again you see. Whenever a rule is made, you should follow logic. Now, why is a ata? I had told you earlier, to is added to restrict the time. A means raswa. Ata, at, takara, tapara, tatkalasya. We had given sutra. We'll again see. Ato means only a, raswa. If the noun ends in a, then bhis becomes ais. It is not other way. You take any Tritiya Vibhakti form in Sanskrit language, you learn, know it or you do not know it. If you know this rule, blindly you can write this by where it is used, how it should be used. And this order tells you that this changes to ice, not the other way. See the ordering. He's not only making the words using the same, see this. Ata, tapara, tatkala. Ata means only akara. Then raswa akaranta. Sabda, tritiya bahuvachana will be is, rest will be vis. So that's why vis he has taken as the basic. So ta, bhyam, vis. If you see it in the table, all these are basic morphemes. He has explained each and every one with their allomorphs. So that's why how many rules you need for 21 suffixes, basic suffix. You need 21 rules, enough. If you understand the 21 rules, you know all the nominal forms of Sanskrit. Yes or no? Possible or not? Ato this is one sutra for Tritiya Vibhakti Bahuvachana. Finished. Ami Purva is Ditya Vibhakti Ekavachana. Like that. If you take 21 Vibhaktis, how many rules you need? How many rules are there? So minimum 21 rules we can get, no? So 21 rules will help us to write Sanskrit nominal forms or even read any text you know or you want to read. So reading text is required because you need to know the structure of words. Because all words are used with vibhaktis in Sanskrit. Whether it is soup or thing. If we know the structure of soup and thing and their changes, then I don't think you can make mistake. You don't need to learn whole 90 forms at a time or all the vibhaktis of all the words. Rama, 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 Hari, Hari, Hari. See, these things what goes at the school level, it is okay for some time, just like learning tables. You have to learn these tables. But when you analyze, you understand. When you want to come to know what is the structure, Sanskrit gives you a systematic analysis. Panini gives you a systematic analysis that where to begin, where to start, and where you are going. So always you see the number fixed, finite set. With these finite suffix, he claims that infinite forms can be explained. Possible. All and only possible sentences, no? A true rule or a good rule or adequate rule should be that which explained with a finite set of rules, a finite set of words, forms, you get infinite set is explained. It is generative. With one, you get many. The whole language, you understand. That's why grammar helps. It is Laghuartham Adhyayam Vyakaran. Where is Laghu? You know only 21. How much time you need? You can master the nominal even in one day. 21 forms only, no? And there are changes. Only 21 rules minimum. If you know, all the nouns are at your disposal. You cannot make mistake. You need not be afraid, oh, so many. Even it is so many, it comes to you in a very lot cell. That is why Laghuartham Adhyayam, how Panini has made the rules, how does it is logical, how it is observational adequate, how it is descriptive adequate. See this description and how it is explained itself. You don't need explanation, so you don't read commentaries. So many commentaries, which commentary you are going to follow? You follow your own commentary. Write your own commentary. Understand what is Ato Bhisais. Understand what is Amipurva. One sutra. That's why I'm giving a sutra to understand yourself. You need not follow anybody. You follow yourself, how much you understand. So this is what the generative system of Panini. So this is nominal structure. This is how the vibhaktis, sub-vibhaktis are arranged and how basic morphemes are given. 21 morphemes only Panini has given. And their variants are only explained with the different rules. That's all. Only exceptions. In some places, so that's why we cannot multiply it 21, because 21 are distinct. All other forms are variants, positional variants. When they do not change the meanings, they are not different. When they change the meaning only, they are considered to be different. So in these cases, these 21s are different because they're different. They are different in meaning. They represent different meanings. But they are variants, positional variants, do not change the meaning. That's why they are taken as allomorphs, or what we call this, what you call Alice means always friendly. So they represent only positional variants. That is how the relation between morphology is with morpheme with allomorphs. How morpheme undergo change, when and where, if it is explained. This is a morphological rule that it describes. It is the science of morpheme. That is morphology. So it is structure of word, how a word is formed with this prakriti and pratyaya, what kind of changes take place, and what kind of sandhi undergoes. It studies, it gives you the structure of word. So there is no word without suffixes. That's why Patanjali has said in the Mahavashya, na kevala prakriti, na kevala pratyaya. Prakriti is feminine, that's why na kevala. Only prakriti cannot be used, nor pratyaya can be used. Both has to be used together. So that is what a word is, a unit of two. It is a structural, it is a structure. Word is not just a single lexical word, it is a grammatical word. That's why it's called padam. Grammatical word represent always a structural unit, a unit of two minimum. Two immediate constituents, what we say. So there must be two, the binary relation. So you should have root and suffix only, a meaning entity is explained. So in English they call it word, that's why they came to morpheme in linguistics. So Panini has used from the beginning, it is the padam. Padam means a grammatical term. It is a grammatical unit. So because it represents word meaning plus the sentence meaning also. So that's why they are called in Sanskrit. They are all morphosyntactic. Even one word represents a sentence. That will come when to syntax. But now this is noun morphology, and we will take a verb morphology next time. So I think yesterday we could not take. Any other day convenient, we will take it. Let us hope. Whenever you are free, let this go. So now this is what called the noun morphology. According to us, it is Subanta for Panini. Okay, so the Subanta represent the nominal endings of all the nouns. You take one rule, one suffix, their variants. We will explain the all nominal structures of Sanskrit language. That's why Sanskrit is a structured language. It has no variation. I mean, it has no, what you call that. You cannot say that something is left out. Adequacy. We are trying to justify within the three adequacies how far the rule is justified, how words are used, in what order they are used, and how they are understood by themselves. Okay, so I hope for today we'll have this. So any question, anybody can just one or two questions, but keep on reading this whenever you have doubt. So you should clarify that. I will explain you whenever you get sent the mail or call me. But still then, if you any one or two questions, please, anybody, any clear, any doubt?
So what is the rule for the Prathama Vibhakti, the variation?
The Prathama is the variation. There are two rules. One is Lopa. That means if it is Dirgha, it is Lopa. Dirgha's sutra is there. Sutra number I will send you. I think we had given, I will send you. Dirgha, I will send the three rules. One is Dirgha. After Dirgha, it is Lopa. All the long words ending in long vowels, it is Lopa. Okay, and all the neuter nouns. How do you know neuter? The su becomes Ato, Again, ato again, akaranta, neuter noun, you get phalam. If it is feminine, bari, it is lopa. So this so that will come. The variants will come. Each pratyaya has its variants in particular, either condition because of the sound, or it can be because of gender also. See, if it is neuter, you get neuter akaranta, ato one sutra. So for each one, I will give you the sutras next time. For each suffix, there is a sutra according to the changes. For there is no other exception. Only for su, you get two rules: dirgha, lopa, neuter, akaranta, neuter, otherwise lopa. So I will show you, I will give you the next year for your verification. We'll send you in the PPT that what are the rules involved for each pratyas, that you will get also in the Ashtadhyayi. I will check it anyway. You can try. I gave only the Tritiya Bahuvachana and Echo because they are represent only single forms. Whereas in Prathama, in Ditya, there are others on the changes. They need separate rules. So rules are according to the changes that is required in the form. I'll do that. I will send you. Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
thank.
This is the architect. Oh, Rajiv ji, you can see how it is drawn, how language is processed.
Sir, I will ask one thing.
Yeah.
In Pratipadika, you say 21,
Suffixes.
7 into 3.
Yes.
So you are not considering Sambodhan.
See, Sambodhana is the same marker, no? Same Prathama. Sambodhane Prathama.
Okay.
It
Okay.
takes the same marker
Yes, yes.
and it is not directly connected with the verb.
Okay.
It is just an address, no?
It is address, yes.
It is an address.
Yes, yes.
It is an address.
Okay.
That's why it is not taken as separate vibhakti. It is only 7 vibhaktis.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So it is a like Prathama. Like Prathama. So when there is a similarity, you did not distinguish. Okay. But you will simply say,
So, sir, three Ramabhyams are there.
yes.
Right.
It is in Ditya Bahuvachana,
All are same, sir.
Tritiya, Chaturthi, Panchami. No. That is what,
Yes.
according to, suppose you say, he is going with, he is walking means in 2 feet, no? Padvyam Gacchati. Okay. Suppose you want to donate 2 boys, or this is done by 2, you are eating in 2 hands, suppose. Okay. What you will say?
Yes, yes, yes.
Hastabhyam. So with the 2 hands you are eating, no?
So I'm not challenging. The
No,
Panini,
I'm telling
Panini
you
must have thought something. That is why.
Yeah, that's right. The meaning
Yes.
difference is there.
Yes.
Okay. Similarly, Bhyas also you will get Bahuvachana.
Yeah, it is there.
Chaturthi, Panchami, Bahuvachana is same.
Same are there. Yes.
So how they change? So that's why he has fixed it. Bhyam, Bhis are used.
Yes.
So that's why that table will tell us what are the basic morphemes, why they are given separately 1, 2, 3, because meaning differs. They are used in the language. He is trying to only show that how it is processed.
Yes.
What are the changes?
Yes,
How
sir.
many changes? How we can make a rule? You speak, I speak. How do we understand? The question is understanding. What is the rule that we understand, not the words?
Yes. Yes.
So terminology are different, but the meaning remains same. So communication is taking place, effective communication, because the number, there are certain rules which are fixed, number, person, gender. Whereas the words are only changing, no? So the idea is that we must look at the rule. The rule, what is there? It is a model. It is not final. You said that you say autobiso, you describe you way you can also like, no?
Yes, sir. It is very useful, sir.
Just a model. So that is what all things. Let us see.
Yes, sir.
So we'll meet. Okay, next Saturday. In
Yes,
between, and one announcement I had told yesterday, I got the confirmation on February 12th and 13th. We'll have Panini and computational linguistics.
Wow.
Wow.
Yes. Okay. Before that, you should do this exercise, so you should know how computer is doing this. Right?
Yes.
We are now unable to understand, but computer understand this and gives you all the rules for each form. These forms also you will see in the computer when she gives you. She will also showing that how computer is doing immediately. Any word you ask, he will give the rules.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, that one. So before that, we should know this so that we can verify with the computer whether we are right or computer is right.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you
Thank you,
all.
sir.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
See you. Thanks.